Unless there's any other questions. Richard, let's get you set up.
Okay. I'm ready. I'll pass the card around. Any of you that would like to at least check out my website or something like that. About 12 years ago, I wrote this book. I just updated it this year called Fast Track Your Job Search, and it was sort of a supporting document for the coaching I've been doing for the last 17 years. So I wrote it as the replacement for What Color is Your Parachute. Anybody who objectively looks at that book can see it's outdated and really not very useful. Pass the book around if somebody wants to thumb through it. There's a chapter, the second chapter in the book is about self-limiting beliefs. And I'm going to touch on that here in a minute about older, I almost said older worker, which is not a thing you're supposed to say, experienced workers and what their self-limiting beliefs might be. And those of you, things you want to change in your thinking. As I mentioned on the back of my card, it shows business owners on one side and executives on the right side. So with that in mind, I'm glad you're here. I'll be fairly brief. This is what I've talked about the last 6 months. I went through 6 considerations for your networking. Why, what's your objective? Who, what is your target audience you need to be in front of? When are you going to schedule and plan your networking? Where are you going to do it? This is one venue among many. And those of you that were here earlier know I'm not a big fan of group networking. It's a nice way to meet a new person, but one-on-one networking in my mind is really the only thing where you really get traction, let's say, in your network. How? Yes?
Can I ask you to do me a favor?
Yeah.
Go back to the beginning of this and just run through them real quick.
Okay. All right. So.
Have you on record?
Okay. So I apologize to the audience. For the last 6 months, I've been going 1 month, each month with one topic dealing with networking. And as I talked about, 1 was why are you doing it? Your objective. 2, who's your audience you need to be getting in front of. 3, when are you doing it? Like I'm introducing a retained search executive recruiter, one of my other retained search people, friends, like Jim, to the CFO of a division of NCR, and we're going to meet him when and where he wants to. So he wants to meet in a certain location at a certain time of day. So when are we going to do it? We're going to do it when he wants to get in front of him. Where, choosing a venue, we're going to do it where he wants to. Sometimes you do it to make the audience happy. How are you going to do it? This is probably the biggest failure that most people have in their networking is when they finally do get in front of someone, they don't really have a strategy and a plan and a message and things like that. And then what? How are you going to measure it? And I would say one way to measure your networking is how many people are you getting in front of? How many referrals and introductions are you getting? So that's something that's measurable. We all know if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So if you're not measuring your networking, you're not managing your networking, in my humble opinion. Last week, I probably got 5 unsolicited referrals from people in my network and gave 3 or 4. So you can kind of judge how active your network is by how many referrals you're getting and receiving, and you can sort of value the quality of those too. So that was what we've done the last 6 months. As an intro to Jim's, if you'll push me to the next slide, Jim, I just have one more slide. And as an intro into what he was talking about experienced workers, I want to tell you about an experience I'm in right at the moment, about to conclude, where an experienced worker is in the process of getting hired by one of my business owners that I coach. And I've actually encouraged this person significantly to hire this person. So on the left, I'm not going to read them, but on the left, you see their cons, and I put their age at the top. Independent contractor means they have not had a permanent job for 10 years. That's a problem on a resume. They've been out of the industry that they're wanting to get back into for over 10 years. and they really haven't done any management because they've been doing independent contracting. They don't have any management experience for the last 10 years. So those are the cons. And then I put the pros on the other side. Why would somebody want to hire this person? And, you know, they've demonstrated all of these things. So this person, I would say, far outweighs the cons. And we are putting together an offer letter for this person. So my second chapter of my book, as I said, is on attitude. No, I'm sorry. First chapter is on attitude. Second chapter is on self-limiting beliefs. So for any of you or any friends that you network with who are maybe experienced workers and they have a self-limiting belief that people won't hire me because I'm this age or something like that, I would say that's untrue. They won't hire you because you're conforming to the stereotype of people that age. And so the more you know about the negative stereotype, whatever it might be, let's say you're an ethnic persuasion, right? Then you can build a whole case for why people won't hire people of your ethnic persuasion, your nationality, your sex, your race, your religion. You know, we can all build those cases in our minds for why we can't succeed. But in reality, this is the best job market. And I always say this, I am very old, okay? I am very old. I'm sure older than anybody in this room. And this is the best job market I've ever seen in my life. So I know it's the best job market any of you have seen in your lives. And so if you're not getting traction again, or if you're not having the success you want, it's because you're doing things wrong, or you're not doing enough of the things you are doing right. And so I would challenge you to think about what is your strategy and your networking to get you where you want to be and what you can do to change it. And I'll offer anybody in the room, if you want to call me up for 10 minutes and just have a quick discussion of what's going right or wrong in your networking, I'd be happy to give you a quick snapshot. Are there any quick questions before we move on to Jim? Yes, sir, or comments?
Yeah, Richard, one of the things that I heard from a few people was, as you put in the cons there, contractor for 10 years.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard was establish yourself as an LLC, and then you can highlight founder of that particular LLC, and then put all of your successes as an independent contractor beneath of that, and it looks far more appealing to a HR person looking at your resume than your concerns about being an independent contractor.
I would say that's a good facade. And if you want to get in the door and you don't have the reality, then you put the facade up so you get the conversation going. In reality, so I would say yes, it is true. You want to look your best, especially on the front end, to make sure the conversation starts. And having those accomplishments, as you said, is very important too. And I'm a big fan of quantified accomplishments. So whether you have done independent or not, look at your resume. Do you really have a lot of quantified accomplishments on there? Because if that can't measure you, I'm not really quite sure how valuable you are. The other thing I would say is you mentioned HR. We all know that HR is kind of like the people you want to avoid at all costs as much as possible. I'd rather cold call what did you have, an insurance agency or something? What was your business?
Financial advisory, right?
Yeah, okay. So if I wanted to come to work for him, I'd be much more successful cold calling him and having a good story of how to get him engaged and why he would want to talk to me than talking to his HR person. The HR person's just strictly a screener. They don't really know necessarily how to evaluate talent. I hate to say that, but if anybody in HR in here, I apologize in advance. So a couple of other question, comment? Yes, sir.
So is it wise to then say if you've had successes in regardless of the LLC,
Right.
you can lump those in under that as part of that LLC's your branding representation for that going forward? So you said,
Yeah, exactly. For me, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're the person that sees those on a daily basis. But to your point as well, it just facade. It adds to the initial person looking at the resume. It says this person's taken the initiative to establish an LLC, you know, they've built a business, they are the founder, they understand marketing and business development and sales and everything else as a founder of an LLC as opposed to an independent contractor.
And I would say you don't have to necessarily have an LLC. I mean, you can have a DBA or whatever. I mean, I can go out and you can put Richard Kirby Consultants. As long as you don't put incorporated or LLC or something behind it, then, you know, it's appearance of a company, even if I don't have a company. But I do think that is a good idea to show some appearance of structure that you've had. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, please go ahead.
You know, my struggle has been, regardless of where I did those things, I did.
Right.
And that was the comment I was trying to be sure to pull those in and the thought around that.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that branding going forward under new umbrella.
Right. Right. And I recommend I got a lot of recommendations. Obviously, I've been doing it for 17 years, but I would say on your resume, have it quantified and don't bury your accomplishments. So many times if it goes on to the second page or it's even low down on the first page, you know, they say the average resume gets 15 seconds. And I think that's probably true because some resumes might get 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes and others get 5 seconds. So when you average it out, so I know I'm helping this guy hire somebody, kind of doing it as a favor, this business owner, and they had like 60 applicants. I can go through 60 applicants in less than an hour, probably 30 to 45 minutes. I can go through them because most of them are a non-starter. You move on because when you post a job, which is a terrible way to hire people and a terrible way to find a job, you get all sorts of trash and people are totally unqualified applying, and you got to get through the trash and find somebody useful. What? What's that?
I think an HR person.
Yeah, this is, no, the people aren't trash, but the resumes are trash. And I'll tell you, having been in business, some of you that own a business, and if you've ever posted a job and seen what you get, you would agree with me, is I find it insulting personally that people waste my time applying for a job they're totally unqualified for just in the hope that somehow they might get lucky. I don't appreciate that. I'm kind of mad about it that they will do that when they have no chance and don't have the qualification. I don't know about Jim, people that if you go through resumes and have that, what's your experience, Jim? Okay, what is your perspective on that? You post a job and you get 100 resumes and 90 of them are immediately unqualified, you know it in 5 seconds.
Well, you know, the applicant's perspective is like a Hail Mary, you know, and they think if it's going to an HR person, they've got a lot of different, you know, jobs that they're trying to fill. So they'll send this up and hopefully it might not be perfect for the job they're applying for, or that you're, you know, advertising for, but it might fit one of the other jobs, you know, in the HR. If you're sending it to an executive recruiter, for instance, you know, that is a big mistake and it's just a waste of time. But, you know, unfortunately, it's just sort of part of the business. You just have to deal with it. There's a lot of other things that, you know, irritate me more than that. But it is an irritation.
That's why, you know, to me, as I said, applying for jobs is the worst way to find a job and get a job. And you're probably talking to some of the poorer employees or less sophisticated employees, let's put it, employers. So I always encourage people, get out of that game as much as you possibly can. It's a really bad numbers game. Yes.
So I've been very fortunate